Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and knights around the realm, thank you for checking out another episode of the Heartbreak Hotel with yours truly, the Prince himself. And today, guys, today we have a special episode because I had to go full Kevin Hart and I had to call upon the knight because I said, help me, help me. And we're going to discuss what I needed help with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Eric Knight, joining us today here in the Heartbreak Hotel. And guys, do we have some stuff to discuss because WrestleMania is right around the corner. But there's this vibe, there's this feel, there's this disappointment kind of seeming like in the atmosphere when it comes to WrestleMania 41. And something I talked about with Eric when I called on him for help is that it's WrestleMania season. And so we feel naturally excitement for it because we know how special WrestleMania can be. But at the same time, when it comes to this year's WrestleMania, I don't know if the atmosphere is the same. And we're going to discuss that because we're going to start off with what happened last night on Monday Night Raw. All right, so we're gonna jump right into it. Eric, I need your help, man. I need you to help me because I'm in the Heartbreak Hotel and I'm in it bad. Because I was looking forward to this week's Raw, especially coming off last week's Raw, where I felt like they started to put little breadcrumbs out there that was leading to interesting storylines that they could really use last night's Monday Night Raw to kind of really like grip the last, bit of people that, excitement for WrestleMania. And to me, it fell flat. And I was kind of disappointed in what the product, especially for a going home Monday Night Raw, delivered. And so that's why I called upon the man, the myth, the legend himself, because I wanted your opinion. And to me, the most exciting things that we had last night, or at least decent things, were the promos between Io, Bianca, and Rhea Ripley, the promo between Jay and Gunther, and then the ending segment, which was good and bad at the same time. So, help me out. Tell me, what did you think about last night's Monday Night Raw on the go home show before WrestleMania 41?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I mean, if I could quote anybody, I'll probably quote my man Sosa was saying that it was a little bit of MIDI time. Because honestly, when I thought of some of the
Sosa
stuff that was
again.
going on Raw, man, I'm telling you, it was a little bit underwhelming, man. I just really thought they was going, give it with a bang. I mean, my thing is too. This is the Raw before Mania. I mean, I can see if this was like a Raw before any other PLE, but this is before Mania. So I mean, it wasn't bad, but I mean, some stuff I felt like we should have been a little bit more excited for. Now, one of my personal favorites I love to see is my girl Bianca, man. What I loved what she said in the promo was like, it's showing a different version of me. I've been seeing a different side. I'm like, yeah, we know what side that is. That's that heel version of Bianca that we've been asking for, something I've been waiting for personally. So I love to see that. But I mean, that was something that I really enjoyed to see, especially from just those three women, whether it was Bianca, Rhea, or Io. I mean, I loved Io's promo too. That was fire. I mean, for real, I love like EO's promos, how they do that. It's so like a real like anime kind of feel. Like I love that. I love what they do with that. But honestly, one thing that kind of stuck out to me was just I think something that was pretty comical. My man Chad Gable, man, I can't lie. Chad Gable really just cracks me up, man. He was really something to watch. But
Yeah,
yeah.
Gable is special, and it's sad because his story plot is very interesting, and I love Gable. I love the work that he does, but he's in a match with Rey Mysterio, which of course, it's Rey Mysterio. I mean, what can we possibly say about it? But I also kind of wish this had more time to bake,
Yeah.
more time to get us and or get me invested. I'm gonna speak for myself. Get me invested. I feel like it was just kind of a last minute thrown together match and we're going to talk about, if we have time, a few matches that are on the WrestleMania 41 card, and whether they are WrestleMania caliber matches. You know, when we talk about WrestleMania, we're talking about something special. We're talking about something that's unique. We're talking about something that's once in a year. It's talking about something that's worked on and built up to for 11 months. And so it should be special. You know, it should be WrestleMania caliber. EO, what they did with her is very special. But more in particular, I want to talk about what happened between the Wiseman, Roman Reigns, the original tribal chief, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. What did you take away from that story last night?
I think what I'm noticing too, because one thing as well, what happened as well, I know people have seen on TikTok, Roman Reigns cut a fire promo. I mean, after I said, my God, this man is just cinematic on every level. He even cut that promo. I mean, it's just so much. I feel like right now, I think what I'm taking away from it, I think we're at the moment to where I think Roman might be going back to being by himself. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where I didn't think that at first. Like last week, I didn't have that thought. I was like, all right, maybe, possibly, even though we see the whole thing with CM Punk, with everything with him possibly being the advocate again. And then, but it's like now kind of seeing what they did on Raw, I'm like, maybe it's time for Roman to go back to being just Roman himself. Because it's not to say that, I mean, we've seen Roman a good amount of times by himself without Paul. I mean, even when we was talking about it when he first came back as the OTC, when he came back back in August, when he was still trying to face the man with the magic boot, Solo and Tama Tonga, when he had that whole situation going on, he didn't have Paul Heyman around. I mean, and the crowd was already behind him. The crowd was like the aura was on him. So I think now he's kind of it just seems like now he's just kind of he can do what he wants to do and he can do it by himself. And I think now it's to the point where, not to say he's got the Brock Lesnar effect, and I'm not saying it like that, you know, because Roman's got his own aura. You know, you don't share aura with anybody else, especially when it comes to the OTC. But I think Roman now is on to the point where almost when you look at like after Brock Lesnar was done with Paul Heyman, you see how much he was already successful. And I think it's going to be that same way with Roman, if not times 10, because that's just what the OTC does.
Yeah, you know, I thought that whole segment was interesting because it seemed like it had potential. And I don't know. And again, this is another situation where I think the story just did not have enough time to bake. I think now that you threw this extra thing in with Seth Rollins and the favor, they kind of had a throwaway last night, a throwaway line where he said, you know what? I don't really expect you to actually repay me a favor because I don't think you're an honorable person or whatever. So I was like, no,
I don't know why. Like, no, I feel like that's the thing. Like, it's always been Seth saying something that's been out of place, and then the next episode he has to like clarify, oh, that's not what I meant to say, or I thought about it. Because I really just kind of thought about it just now when we was talking about SmackDown, even with Seth the last time when he was just like, oh, even when he was pissed off about CM Punk, and then the whole thing we talked about, why are you upset, Seth? There's no reason for you to be upset. You're in the main event. Then he comes on SmackDown. Well, you know, I thought about it, and I really had time to really just kind of, you know, understand the situation. Bro, what? I don't know. They just need to stop having Seth saying these things. I think at this point, if they would have just had Seth just say maybe just nothing after saying, now you owe me a favor, I think it would have been okay. I think it might have been okay.
I agree. I think if they would have left it open, it probably would have been okay, because then you would have had everybody wondering, what is this favor going to be? And when will we see Seth try to cash in on it during WrestleMania, you know, and how would he try to cash in on that favor at WrestleMania? Because they had this story that they built up with the Wiseman coming out last week and saying, I'm a loyal person. I'm loyal to you, my tribal chief. Mm-hmm. I'm loyal to my best friend, CM Punk. So they played on this loyalty story, which is great, because now it's like, okay, when Paul Heyman owes someone a favor, he's going to deliver on that because of his loyalty to being a man of honor, a man of integrity type of thing. And I thought they would try to play on that when it came to Seth Rollins, but then he had this throwaway line, and it kind of like he had it because when he was talking about Roman, you're not putting together the final piece. I'm like, ooh, this is getting good. What is the final piece? What is Roman missing here? What am I missing? What did all these things were going through my head because he kept hinting at this final piece. And I'm like, this is the architect being the architect. This is great because he's a step ahead of us. And and then he said that line, and it was just like, okay.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, well, maybe not. Okay, back to square one. Why are we doing this? At this point, Seth, do you belong in the match now? Because I'm confused. Because it seemed like now it should just be between CM Punk and Roman Reigns.
And Roman,
but, yeah. It's one of these things where it's like, this is, to me, is what's kind of making WrestleManias come off as being mid. And I hate to use that because we're talking about WrestleMania, but we'll get into some of the card, because one last thing I want to address on Raw before we move on to something that actually was great. And Sosa, I appreciate you being in here and hanging with us in the HeartBreak Hotel this late at night. And I know that your initial comment was that Raw was cool to you. And if you don't mind, share with us, what did you like? What was your favorite thing that came out of Raw? Because I'm interested to know if I'm just missing the point. Or if we're missing the point leading into WrestleMania 41. But something else I want to touch on was Gunther and Jey Uso. Now, I did think that they got this right. I really do. And the more I see Jey Uso, the more I do feel that this is going to be his night. But what's sad to me at the same time is we're talking about a match for the World Heavyweight Championship, and it's not even going to be the main like night one finisher. And I feel like it's also the match that has the most story line and story like focus compared to most things going on from Raw. And it's not going to really, cap the night for WrestleMania 41. But what did you think about, Gunther and Jay's promo when they came out for Raw last night?
Oh, I mean, man, honestly, hold on. Get myself right for this one. Get myself right. Because when, I mean, when they started off Raw with just Gunther going in, I was honestly, what it reminded me of hearing Gunther just saying, like, remember, this is the ring, one of the better rings. I was like, yeah, see, okay, now, and I think what was funny, because I remember Mr. Xclusive was saying, like, like what's making you act like this all of a sudden? Because now, like, oh, you're a little, you look a little scared because he's wearing black now. And it was just like, that's what we said. Now Gunther just changed up and he went off. And I mean, honestly, just like Sosa saying, man, yeah, he cooked. He definitely cooked. And it showed, honestly, reminded me of like the old NXT UK when he wasn't even Gunther, okay? When this man was Walter.
Hey.
Okay?
Give
That's
Walter the respect he deserves.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. It gave me that Walter feel. And I said, yeah, that's what this is what this reminds me of right here. This is what it reminded me of. See, there you go. See, there goes Mr. Schools. He's saying it right now. Gunther did get scared too quick. But then he just turned back. But then even Jey Uso, I mean, come on. Honestly, it's like, I feel like now, even for Jey Uso, I'm loving the Yeet moving even more. Just him in the black. I think this is just showing a more serious side. Like, honestly, which is crazy. If Jay went heel and that was the look, I'd be all for it. I ain't gonna. That'd be all right for him. But yeah. I loved how he looked out there, the promo he cut. I mean, the crowd was with him. It felt emotional. I think they really telling the story with this one. And I love how they doing it. And even for Gunther, when him saying, I'm going to put you down for the fourth time, I say, man. I said, man, this man's cat. I was like, so now this puts it in my head like, man, he beat him 3 times.
Yeah.
I said, so it's like Jay's got to do something. Yeah. So I love the story that they gave with that. So yeah, I mean, that was 10 out of 10. I think they've made this better ever since the last few weeks. I think this one they've been cooking with this one, and they got this
Yeah.
one right for Jay.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think this was one of my favorite segments of the show, both of them, because I loved Gunther's attitude, his ferocity, the feel he gave, because it's like he's a marked man, and he knows that like this is his last hurrah, and he's trying everything he can to intimidate Jey Uso, and to kind of just cling to that championship. But at the end of the day, we know what's about to happen. And I think deep down, Gunther knows, the ring general knows, because Jay comes out and you just see that the fans have chosen their champion. And to the point that the crowd is chanting one more time to hear this man's music. And the WWE gives the fandom what they want just for the crowd to rock out. And I think that's going to be a special night for Jey Uso, and I think there's no better way to do it than at WrestleMania. So I am excited for it, but I'm loving the story and the feel behind this particular match, which I think it's probably the best match for WrestleMania coming out of Raw, because of the fact that they have given so much time and resources to this. And like you said, they've had 3 matches, and Gunther has reminded you that, hey, I've won all 3, and I'm going to win the 4th one as well. And then I'm going to call my mother on Tuesday or on Monday and tell her how much he loves. Yeah, I said, hey,
Everybody's
Gunther
praying
is
too. You notice
cooking.
that?
Huh?
Gunther said, you notice everybody's been praying too. Drew been praying. Gunther said he's been praying.
Everybody.
Jay been praying.
Hey, everybody has been praying. It's been hilarious. But hey, that was probably the best part coming out of Raw. So I feel like I said, the Raw going into WrestleMania 41 could have delivered more on some storylines. Like I wanted to see more coming out of it for the Judgment Day. Didn't really get that. And it is what it is. I wanted to see a little bit more when it comes to Braun, Penta, and Finn and the rest of them. We didn't necessarily get that, and so it is what it is. But
we got a little, we
got a little bit.
It's kind of like almost like we got the same thing last week. Like we get
yes, and that's what I felt like.
Everybody last week.
yes. Like I wanted to see a little bit more of like, could this be could somebody be planning to stab Finn in the back coming from Judgment Day? Does Liv Morgan have this backup plan? Things of that nature. We didn't really get that. And then something else that I thought about also real quick before we get into something that has been cooking, and that's like, man, we got the United States champion and who has been out here doing work, and she's not even mentioned for the WrestleMania 41. And we got her in a secret Hervis. Like they've been cooking with stuff. And I just realized, we did all of that this year to promote. We got these new titles coming to the women's division and the Intercontinental Championship, and the women's US nothing. And so that hurts, but we're gonna move on real quick because we got some other stuff really important that I want to get to. But for now, we got to talk about something that was cooking and was cooking well tonight, and that of course is NXT. All right, so NXT just happened tonight, and something that I really, really appreciated about this, because we talked about this a little bit on Sunday, was how, in my mind, I feel like NXT does a better job with their storylines leading to matches and then those matches delivering. And what is crazy about this is when you say NXT, everybody's like, that's the minor leagues. That's the feel I get sometimes when I'm talking to people, and it's like, you're missing greatness. Like these wrestlers that are coming up into the main roster, they cut their teeth in NXT, and a lot of them had better NXT runs, amazing NXT runs. And when they got to the main roster, you didn't really get anything from them. But tonight, it's just showing again why NXT, in my mind, if you're talking about compared to to something like a Raw, which has all of these resources because it's a bigger show, but yet it pales in comparison to to what NXT is able to deliver when it comes to, hey, a storyline leading to a match, and this match actually delivering. So tonight we had a match to see who faces Ricky Saints for the North American Championship. And
Oh
who
man.
better? Who better to face Ricky Saints at Stand and Deliver than this man right here? Hey,
Ego.
let's talk about it. E, how did you
That
feel about
man,
this?
Ethan Page. Hey man, honestly, at first I was in my head. I was like, you know what? I don't see any one person winning at all. What I thought was weird at first of the match though, because Ricky Saints was there, like commentary, and then he gets sent outside, like he gets sent to the back. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, this is the champ. This man's supposed to be here. He should be here. Why are we sending this man out? I don't know. That was just I just thought that just kind of threw me off for a second. But I love the match. I mean, 10 out of 10. I like the fact that they're going with Ethan Page because they're kind of already telling that story a little bit already. Like it seems like that story's already been kind of been told since the first week when Ricky Saints got there and Ethan Page was there. So I like the story that they're doing with this. Do I see Ethan Page winning this? Maybe so. I'm not gonna lie. And would I be mad about this? Yeah, because we should not be tossing around that North American title too fast. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I loved it. I loved the whole segment. I thought it was great to see Ethan Page come out on top. I thought it was good. But yeah, I really thought it was gonna give us a whole fatal five-way match. Honestly,
Yeah,
for a
because
second,
of
I thought
course,
Sean Spears was about to pop up for 2 seconds. I was like, maybe Sean Spears.
hey, but at least Sean would have been at Stand and Deliver. The man deserves it. What he's doing with the culling is just amazing. It's just
It
A1
is.
work. And if NXT has one problem, one gripe, I think it is exactly what you said just now, E, is that titles tend to change hands quickly in NXT. And that's the one thing that I think they could do a better job about. But if you want to talk about something that is peak storytelling, and this is why I complain. I don't want to rain on anybody's parade when it comes to how they feel about Raw, how they feel about SmackDown, how they feel about WrestleMania 41. Because at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans and we love wrestling. So we're not doing this from a side of we don't want or we don't like WWE, we don't like Raw, or like to just put anybody down about it. It's just we know that the product can be better and it can do better, and it doesn't take much. And the prime example of this is Hank and Tank. And let me just tell you guys about how simple this story is, but why it's also so interesting. If you've been following NXT for weeks now, we've been seeing Hank and Tank have matches and they've lost and they've lost and they've lost and they've lost. And we talked about it on Sunday, how they lost this last match. They've had all these good tag teams come in and just talk to them about what it takes to win. And every week they go out and lose. But when the champions, when the profits are up,
That's it. Come
when
on
the
now.
profits are up, Hank and Tank find themselves and they find what we know as victory. And the way they do it and the story is so phenomenal in the sense that, like I said, for weeks they were losing. And then they had this gauntlet run tonight to see who faces Fraxium at Stand and Deliver for the tag team champions, for the tag team championships. And we talked about this on Sunday. On Sunday, we said, I said, low key, I felt like the Hank and Tank storyline is actually pretty good because I can kind of see where this was going and I can see the buildup. And I thought it was like, man, this is such a simple storyline that is so good. And it's good to the point that, the crowd is buying into it and they didn't have to do much. It's not like you have to do like this, grandiose thing to make everybody like buy into it. It was as simple as watching a team struggle week after week and finally learn to win. They won their first match. They bring out a second match. They win that one. And they win, 5 matches in a row in a gauntlet to face Fraxium for the tag team championship going into Stand and Deliver. And I just think that right there is what makes NXT special. And that's right there is why I say, like, Shawn Michaels knows how to cook. He knows how to tell a story in the ring. And we're going to discuss that here in a little bit. And that's why I want to get through these last few things, because I've got some topics or some questions that I need to get answers from you, Mr. Eric Knight. And I think it will just kind of help the Heartbreak Kid himself settle down going into WrestleMania 41. But Hank and Tank, I love what they did here, and it was just great. But I want to give you the time here to talk about your girl Lonnie.
Come on, man, my girl Lonnie. Man, look, this was great. Everything about this segment right here, I loved it, because as soon as, like, you seen Soul Ruby, you seen Zara, they was talking, and I'm like, I see, I see. First of all, first person I seen at first was Ariana Grace. Got to shout out my girl Ariana Grace. She is talented. I love that girl. She's entertaining. She's entertaining. Honestly, and that's Santino's daughter, dude. Like, you gotta give her something. She's doing amazing stuff right now. But when I see my girl Lonnie, and she came up there, first I seen her, she was sitting down. I said, oh yeah, look, Lonnie's already looking like she's lurking in the background, low key. I said, this is good right here. And even just the skill, like her being in here, oh, she's getting comfortable. I can tell Lonnie is getting it. She's feeling it now. Pause. Because everything about this I thought was good. She sold it. She said, I'm going to be a two-time. She said, I'm going to be a two-time champion because nobody does it like Lonnie. Come on, man. We've been saying this. Yes. I'm invested with this. I'm invested when it comes to Lonnie. She's got me right now. She's got me. But it was great. They cooked with that.
But meanwhile, this is what makes it special. You are rooting for Lonnie. I'm over here cheering for Soul because I got Soul. And that's my girl. And I'm like, Soul needs to take this. She has to do this. Stand and deliver. She has to do both. She has to stand and she has to deliver. And so that's what makes this amazing. Like, that's the type of buy-in that I wish I had for most of the matches at WrestleMania 41. And then lastly, real quick to jump into it, this is how it ends. Like, how did we get here?
Come on.
How do we get here, people?
Come on now.
Talk to me.
Come on now.
Talk to me. Look,
come on,
Eric. This is your boy. Hold up the belt. So I'm gonna cede the floor to you because this is your boy. This is the man that you talked about. This is the man that you ride or die for. From the very beginning, you were bouncy. Talk to him.
Hey, man, I've been telling the people about my man, the young OG. Honestly, look. And see, what I tell people all the time, us as a group, as a whole, as us as a podcast, we have talked about the young OG. I've been a big advocate, huge advocate for this guy. Why? Because I see so much potential in this man. When this guy gets on the mic, I feel like this is the most real natural YN we have seen on the mic. Somebody was yelling in the crowd, oh, get that YN. That's a YN. Yeah, that boy was going good.
Which is diabolical, by the way.
It really was. But I love his work, man. I think what they've been doing with him, I really think they've been doing the real long-term storytelling, as Mr. Xclusive would always say. Because when I look at everything he did from Heatwave, I'm like, okay, again, he was the one that lost. He got pinned. Then I'm like, okay, Deadline was another situation. And I even think about just even that time with him, with Ethan Page again, and him the whole getting the smile back, and I'm just like, man, I really think this is his time, because when I'm looking at even like how they finished it off, oh my God, the promo he cut was just A1. I said, my God. I said, this is what I was talking about when it comes to the young OG. I said, this is it right here. That boy got bouncy on the mic. I was proud of him. He did his thing.
Yeah, he really did, and he was standing toe to toe with Oba, and it was like he was putting Trick in his place. And to me, just a little bit, it looked like Javon was better than Trick in this. Like, it's like he shut Trick up, and it was like, hey, Trick, you got to come back. You can't let this young OG here come up in here and just start talking his ish and feeling himself. You are the man. You're supposed to be Mr. NXT, but he did get a little too big for his britches, and no ruler. Obafemi let him have it, and he reminded him that you're only a 20-year-old boy And that is why you can't handle like Kratos, boy. That's the vibe I got. And I loved it. And then, like I said, the little bit of storytelling, like you got the young OG, they both, Trick and Oba, get tired of hearing his mouth. They throw him over one side of the ropes. He gets back in the ring. They toss him over the other side. And then he comes back. He's relentless and ends up putting them both down and holding up the belt to go off, and to stand and deliver. I mean, again, just a good piece of storytelling. I love it. And it still leaves you feeling like, what in the world is going to happen at Stand and Deliver in this story? Who is going to come out on top? But it got me thinking. That got me thinking. And these are the questions that I have for you. And the first one is, why do you feel like the storylines, or think that the storylines in NXT, especially since it's considered to be a developmental brand, are better than what the storylines Raw or SmackDown are able to produce? Like, what is the difference here?
I think it's a couple of things. I mean, I can say, I think it comes to the man Sean. I think it's not to say, like, I think that's what's kind of crazy, because if we go back to the prime time years of NXT when it was Triple H and Sean together, they were cooking like crazy. And it's like sometimes when I'm looking at it, when it's just Triple H by himself, it's like I don't know what's been going on with some of the main roster stuff. It's like some of the stuff, it's like, and I've been saying this for a while, it's a lot of start and stops, a lot of start and stops, a lot of start and stops, and you don't go nowhere with them, or some of them will start to go good, and then you do nothing with them, or then you have some, or again, we'll have the shiny new toy situation where you have new people come in, and then that storyline's scrapped, or yeah, we got to give some time to this person. I feel like there's so much kind of being rushed on the main roster. And I think maybe it could be because of the whole Netflix thing. Could be, because the whole thing with them with the USA and all that. And then when you think about NXT, they're kind of just focused on one thing. I think when it comes to the main roster, I feel like there are storylines on, like even like when I'm thinking about, there are storylines, some of the same storylines going on both shows. And I'm like, I don't think that's necessary. And I think that's where they kind of lose themselves sometimes. Because if you just focus on certain storylines on a certain show like you used to do, it could work. But if you keep moving every single storyline to each show and bouncing them around, this is why we keep having the problem with everybody else. This is why we got some people still in catering. This is why we still got some people that are getting released, because they're saying, well, I don't got nothing for you. Well, because we keep doing this stuff. What we need to do is some improvement. When it comes to NXT, right now, they are developing the people that they are developing. What my problem is with NXT, I think right now, is just like we said before, just the titles changing too fast, because it is, again, the shiny new toy situation. They have got to stop that. And honestly, one thing I will say, because Jada Parker had really said something in her promo that stuck out to me when she's like, I'm the only homegrown NXT person in this match. And that's, in my head, made me say, okay, she's got to win this. If you don't win this, you have no one. It's almost like one of those things. If Karrion Kross went right there to the back and told her and said, you got to win this for all of us. It's like if he went back there and told her that, she
with
got
some
no
type of
other
Jada
choice
Parker
but to win.
hairstyle.
Yeah.
So and I agree. And I tried to liken it to maybe because NXT is smaller, so they have more time to focus on the wrestlers that they have there.
Yeah.
But I still find that to be like the low-hanging fruit of an answer. And the reason why I say that is because I spent time this week because WWE released the Vault match between Bret Hart and Stone Cold. And now I've seen that match, okay? But I decided to watch it again. And like this whole Vault storyline of how it built up to the final match, the legendary match between Bret Hart and Stone Cold. And what I noticed in that promo and in that whole like storyline was, one, how long that story went on, like the year of lapsed time that took place. And there was so many things that happened. And I'm going to try to give you just like the little tidbits that just stood out to me. Was it started with Bret, he had walked away from the WWE. He was contemplating whether he should come back, not come back. They had sent Kurt Hennig out to like interview him and things of that nature. And he had everybody like, like just in limbo about what was going to happen to Bret Hart, like one of the, WWF's at that time, WWF's like all-time favorite, wrestlers.
Yeah.
And so, but then you had Stone Cold, and you had a young Stone Cold. You had a gritty Stone Cold.
Fresh
you
off
had
that
a Stone
King of the
Cold
Ring,
that
too.
was fresh off King of the Ring. And you could tell in the
Come on.
promos because that boy was nasty. I mean, he had no bread, no water, just mean. And oh man, if you go back and listen to those promos that he cut off the cuff, telling Vince McMahon, shut up. Like it was, and then one point Vince was like, we don't have any time. We have to leave. And he's like, oh, what, you don't have any time, and starts beating up the cameraman for thinking about cutting away from. It was insane. It was legendary. And I said, this is what I miss. Like, this is what I loved as that little boy watching wrestling. This is the stuff that was just gripping, man. But long story short, Bret comes back. He says, I'm going to face Stone Cold. They have a match. Stone Cold loses. But Stone Cold told him in a promo, even if you beat me, like it will never be done between you and Stone Cold. And so he comes out and interferes with another match. No, what happened was it was a Royal Rumble. Stone Cold goes over the ropes. It looks like he's out. The announcers are saying Stone Cold is out, but Stone Cold gets back in the ring, tosses Bret out the ring, causes Bret to lose the Royal Rumble, whatever. Then Bret Hart wins the championship, and the very next day loses it to Psycho Sid because Steve Austin comes out, smacks him in the head with a chair. And this is all of the storytelling that I'm just thinking about. And then I'm thinking about the promos in between. And there was a promo in there because it talked about everything leading up to the final match, and Stone Cold talked about them the match being an I quit match. Stone Cold's like, I don't even have a submission. But you think you're going to get Stone Cold to say the words, I quit? That he just goes on a legendary rant, just off the cuff, and it's just so amazing. And then Bret Hart's having an interview, and Bret Hart's like, well, I'm going to beat you unconscious. And what I love about this now, watching it back as a kid watching this, I didn't quite put all the pieces together, but what made it special rewatching this just now was the fact that I was picking up on the things that was said in those promos and how the match went and the storyline in that match, to the point that Stone Cold told you'll never hear the words from Stone Cold of I quit. I'm not a quitter. You couldn't beat it out me. There's nothing you can do. It's not going to happen. Bret says, I'm going to make you go, beat you unconscious. And Stone Cold loses the match to Bret at WrestleMania because Stone Cold literally went unconscious. And
storytelling.
That is why I'm like, this right here, what I noticed about this was that this story had a beginning, this story had a middle, and this story had an end. And for the matches that are coming up here at WrestleMania 41, could you tell me one match to you that really has a beginning, a middle, and an end like this? And is this why people look at WrestleMania 41 and say mid?
Well, the only two I would say has I think the biggest beginning, middle, and end situation. Three. I would say three. Impossible. First one, I would definitely say the Fatal 4-Way match because of Finn and Dom. Because of that whole thing that's been going on. I mean, we could talk about the whole thing with Finn and Dom, and that whole thing was going on with Liv, and that whole Judgment Day thing. That is probably the only thing I will give for that. Besides that, I will say the triple threat, Roman, Seth, and Punk. And then add on to that, Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Only reason why, because all five of those men were intertwined in the same storyline for the last year, since last year's WrestleMania. And then, of course, continuing in from the Elimination Chamber. And honestly, in my opinion, it still feels like, to me, I feel like Drew McIntyre should have been a fourth person, or maybe the actual third person in the WrestleMania match. Maybe not Seth, Roman, and Punk, but maybe Roman, Punk, and Drew. Because we did say that a while ago. We thought that might have been a thing. But I think it might have been those three, or maybe those four. Maybe that story would have been told a lot more. Because honestly, again, one of my favorite storylines that happened this year was Punk and Drew. That was cinema every week. I mean, this even when Punk was injured, and that whole thing with Drew was just talking every week. I mean, the whole I injured CM Punk. There's no WrestleMania. The shirt, everything he was doing every week was gold. I loved what he did. So I mean, honestly, if we would have seen something with him and Punk now, maybe at the WrestleMania main event for a title, hey, that would have been a beginning, middle, and end for me.
Yeah.
Because that would have been something I think that would have been told. Or maybe if it was Drew, Seth, and Punk for the title.
Yeah.
That would have been another one because, again, those three have told a story all together. So I think that would have worked. But yeah, I think those right now, those might be the best ones that maybe told the beginning, middle, and end. But mainly, yeah, those three. And definitely, of course, because Roman's been doing this storytelling all this time. So, I mean, even for him, that man is aura. That man is storyline. That man is always getting better. So, I mean, that's just everything about the OTC. So, yeah, I would say those would be mine for right now. But if we're talking about classics, I'll give you one later on.
So when we talk about these storylines, right? And we talk about WrestleMania 41. One part of the title is what I put in here is this WrestleMania made for TV? Tell me off top of your head, can you tell me what matches you think are not WrestleMania worthy, do not belong on a WrestleMania program?
I hate to say it, and I don't even want to do it to my man Chad. I don't feel like he should have that match should be on WrestleMania card. That's a Raw, like a Raw. That's one of those when they say like the SmackDown WrestleMania weekend. Yeah, that's one of those you put on there. And I think Chad should be in the Intercontinental title picture. We talked about that on Sunday. He should be in that title picture. That's ridiculous. Like the fact that he's not in that, but the fact that y'all giving him this, I mean, yeah, this should be something that shouldn't be on the card. I hate to say it, Damian and Drew don't really need to be on the card. That's something you could have kept maybe for, another SmackDown. Because again, it's like, again, we have a lot of non-title matches. And we have what, 2 or 3 titles that aren't even being defended. Again, the Women's United States title, why is that not being defended? The Intercontinental Women's title, that's not being defended. Oh, here's another one. The WWE I can't even say it out my mouth. But the WWE Tag Team Champions, those titles are not being defended.
And profits are up.
And we talked about that on Sunday. Why is that not being and that's got a story that's been going on since what? Since August. Since maybe July. That has been something that's been talked about, that we've talked about since we started the show. This has been something that's been going on. If anything, that should be they need to have a title shot. They need to have a title match on the card. Now, I've been saying this before. We don't know, possibly it's because something could change. Maybe on SmackDown. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of people that's been talking about this. So something could change on Friday. We might get a actual a ladder match. I would be okay with that. We can do a fatal 5-way ladder match with the Profits, with Pretty Deadly, with Garza and Umberto, with DIY, and hell, even with Melody Miz.
Yeah,
you can throw them in the mix. Go ahead.
Yeah, and don't forget, we still got a couple of matches that they have to make for Mania, because you still got to look at Randy Orton. What is his match? And so it's a lot there. But you named a couple of matches that I had in mind about. I don't think these matches are WrestleMania worthy, and of course, mine was going to be Drew and Damian. And as much as I love Drew and the work he's doing, and Damian, he's up and coming. I mean, I shouldn't say up and coming because he's been the champion, but WrestleMania caliber match between them two, there's not enough story there. There's not enough to make me go wild. There's not enough interest in that particular match that I feel like couldn't have just been settled over a SmackDown or a Raw. I would rather see the Profits defending the tag team championships against any other team than to really see Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest have a match. But that's just my gripe. And then before we end it, because just watching that Stone Cold Bret Hart just classic match, it got me thinking about WrestleMania and what WrestleMania means and the importance of these matches. And just because you have a belt or you're a champion doesn't mean it automatically makes it WrestleMania caliber. And I say that because a match to me that had a beautiful storyline, had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then got in the ring and delivered a story from beginning to middle to end, and is one of my all-time favorite matches to watch. Okay, is Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. And the reason that match sings to my soul to this day, it sings to my heart to this day, is because you had two of my favorite all-time wrestlers going head to head. And what makes that match so special to me is the story that Shawn and Ric Flair put together in that ring of the old dog versus facing the reality of having to give up something he has loved his entire life to a person that is saying, hey, you can't do it anymore, you need to go home. And watching that match and the story that Shawn and Rick told, where Shawn is getting ready to deliver a super kick, probably partway through the match, through that 30-minute match, but he stops because he couldn't do it, because he couldn't kick his idol. He couldn't do it. He didn't want to do it. But Ric Flair turned and it was like, just even JR stuff that I remember him saying, like, you hesitated, and hesitation, will cause you to lose. And Ric Flair takes advantage of the moment, puts him in the figure four, and he has Shawn Michaels in the middle of the ring, and Shawn Michaels is screaming bloody hell. And it's just so good because it's like, oh my gosh. And even now, that match is so good that even now when I watch it and I know the outcome, there's still a part of me that says it's going to be different. Ric Flair is going to win this match, and I know who's going to win. But, to cap it off, at the very end, my favorite part, probably everybody's favorite part, is Shawn Michaels and the kick. And right before he delivers it, he looks his idol in the eye and says, I'm sorry, I love you. And he kicked him. And when Ric Flair goes down, he's already in tears. He's crying on the mat as Shawn lays on and pins him 1, 2, 3. That right there is special. That right there is what a WrestleMania caliber match is. And that right there is what I want when I'm watching a WrestleMania. Do you have anything that just sings to your soul, a match that sings to your soul like that, when you think about WrestleMania and how special WrestleMania is?
Man, it's crazy. You talk about WrestleMania. It's one of those things, when I think about WrestleMania, it's one of those things that we say it all the time. We talk about aura, we talk about storyline, we talk about how good is this getting, and that's what WrestleMania really is supposed to feel like. See, because when it comes to WrestleMania, right? It's a big deal. It's a Super Bowl of wrestling. It's the stage. Every time, one of my biggest things I always look forward to is the stage of it. How's it gonna look? Everybody's gear is always different. But see, the story of the match is what's so important about it. And then one of my favorites, one of my all-time favorites, because you said Shawn Michaels. And see, for me, the thing, even with that storyline that you talked about with Shawn and Ric Flair, which was that whole thing with Ric Flair every week was just fighting to keep his career. I loved that. See, John Cena need to do something like that. I don't know what's going on with this whole farewell tour that John Cena say he's doing, but that's what Rick. This is what Rick's doing.
It was best for business.
Rick did. Exactly. What Rick was doing. This was good, and the fact that Shawn was the one that had to do it. That's what made it feel even like, damn, that's what made it feel real personal. But for me, I think, we talk about the heartbreak. I Shawn versus Taker, that was one of my big all-time favorites. And honestly, it was one of those that went on for like everybody loved one. We had to do it again for the next year. I love the story that they told them, with Shawn and Taker just at the Rumble. And it's just everything like, I mean, oh my God. And then even how they continued that, even with Triple H, with those last, with the other two. So like that was a story that they told. And I think that was something that, like, even it started from Shawn and Taker, and then it ended with Triple H and Taker. And I mean, that was just a great story that they told on both levels of that. That was one of my favorites growing up. And if I had one from this day and age, that I would say one of my favorite ones that when I really look back and I think about the climb, I think about how that story was told. I think about how it happened for her, my girl Bianca versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 38. See, that was low key a story that was told, and a lot of times I had to really think about that. I said, was there one that Bianca had? Yeah, she did, because that whole journey of losing to Becky Lynch at SummerSlam, that whole journey she had to go through and beat every single person, and you watched how hard she had to work, how you watched how hard she had to try to struggle to get through everything, and she actually did it at WrestleMania to win it all. I mean, that match that was told, that the spots that they were doing, everything that they did, the crowd was invested. See, to see that in a match like that, in a women's match. See, and honestly, and I say this about any Bianca Belair match that I've seen, that was very invested. That everything, that whole story that was told, everything that they played on there, I loved it. I loved it. And they played a part, and even to the part where they continued a little bit on to SummerSlam, and it worked out. But I think that was one of my favorites for this day and age, especially for see if I said for the women's side, I'd definitely say for Bianca and Becky. But for the men's, definitely gonna be the heartbreak kid himself, man, the man that cooks up, the chef, Shawn and Taker. Love to see it, man.
Yeah, and it's crazy. My boy Sosa popped in and he said his is, he loves Warrior versus
Mm,
Randy. It's another good one.
yeah.
And that's the thing with WrestleMania. Will do they all deliver? No, that's the reality of it. You got, this is 41 of them, and there's some that I know we can think of, like the Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, that probably wasn't that great. And so
31.
yeah. So I mean,
30.
it does happen. But that's what's special about WrestleMania. And I appreciate you coming on here to the Heartbreak Hotel and just helping a brother out, because talking about WrestleMania and the excitement of it, and just getting the vibe and feel for it for other people that I have conversations with. I just get this feeling that WrestleMania 41 it's not what meeting people's expectations. Now, it's not, we haven't had it yet. And again, we have some superstars in matches that can deliver, like I said. So it could change all of our minds once we actually witness it. But there are some things when it comes to storylines leading into this WrestleMania that I feel like if they would have done just a smidge better, it would be a totally different vibe. Again, like I said last year, Rock, he made WrestleMania 40 feel special, feel great, feel exciting. He, like he said, he made wrestling cool again. And so, we just don't have that type of thing going in. And we have John Cena, one of wrestling's favorite childs, like, and a part of WrestleMania 41. And it's still giving a mid feel, but
Yeah.
we're gonna see. And stand and deliver, we got high hopes for that, because Sean's been cooking, and there's no way the chef is gonna serve us anything less than A1. So thank you, E. Thank everybody for joining us tonight on the Heartbreak Hotel. As usual, I gotta remind everybody, hey, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, and on TikTok. So feel free to check us out, please. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button, give us a like. We appreciate it. We're excited because we got A lot coming for you guys this week. We plan to do a review of Stand and Deliver. We plan to do a review of WrestleMania Night 1. And we plan to do a review of WrestleMania Night 2. And we're going to determine whether WrestleMania 41 was mid or not. So, with that said, thank you for watching. It's yours truly, the Heartbreak Prince. And we're checking out at the Heartbreak Hotel. Peace.
Peace.